Hi, my friend. This is Onebunne, and you're welcome to another episode of the USA Playbook Podcast, where we hear the stories of how other international students got scholarships, visas, and even US jobs. This is the podcast that saves you time as an international student. Joining me today is Amaka, a senior communication specialist. Yeah, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Nzube. It's my pleasure to be here today.
Thank you. Thank you. You are the first person with an HND background that we're having on the show. So I really look forward to learning a lot about your journey and how the transition for you from Nigeria to the US was. So please, to get things started, can you introduce yourself to anyone that's not met you before, your full name, the country you're originally from, what you're currently doing, and the state you are at the moment?
Thank you. My full name is Amaka Peace Onebunne. I am from Nigeria, Anambra State, Nigeria, precisely. And then I currently work as a senior communication specialist with a company. And I'm currently in Illinois. And I came here with my HND in mass communication. And I actually finished my master's degree in communication studies here.
Okay, beautiful. We'll really get into all of that. So understand how the master's degree was possible. Master's degree was possible. So let's go back to Nigeria. Which polytechnic did you attend for you to get your first degree?
So I attended the Federal Polytechnic Oko Anambra State, and for HND holders who may actually know this, it's possible that one person can attend two schools. So one
Wow.
polytechnic for your ND, and then the other polytechnic for to finish your HND. So in the whole process, that actually play a role in the way that you evaluate your transcript, for instance. For people like me, I attended both my ND, National Diploma, and my HND in one school. So yes, the
Okay.
Federal Polytechnic Coco.
Okay. Wow. That's nice. And you said you studied mass communication.
Yes, I studied mass communication.
So at what stage do you specialize? Do you specialize at the ND level or at the HND level or both?
So for polytechnics in Nigeria, so I'm going to use my own school for as an example. Um, School universities in Nigeria actually treats communication from the social science or humanity part of things. For polytechnic in Nigeria, most schools actually treat it from the information technology part of things.
Okay.
So, and that actually informed what I'm here to do, what I came here to do as a master's student. So, my kind of communication is more of tilted towards communication technology.
Okay. 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 So your highest qualification before leaving Nigeria was your
Higher
HND.
national diploma. Yes, higher national diploma.
Okay. So what ignited your interest in studying abroad?
So many things. So, I feel like studying abroad for anybody in Nigeria, any child in Nigeria that has genuine interest in education, I would say that studying abroad would be one dream that has come across anybody's mind at one point or the other. I've always had that dream to study abroad, but I don't know where or how or even when, you know. And then I had tried Germany because from the things that I heard about Germany, cost of living is cheaper,
Yeah.
and you could learn a new language even though people don't like German. I'm intrigued by new things. Like I love learning, and especially language. I wish I can speak like so many languages. So I loved Germany, and then I also loved like UK or Canada. But the thing with these countries that I mentioned is that they do not recognize HND as a baccalaureate degree or as a bachelor's degree.
Wow.
So that stalled me for a lot of years because I finished my HND 215/216. So, and I started doing my master's in 2020. So that's like 6 years gap.
Wow. That's a
So,
long time.
yes. So that stalled the whole plan for me until I think online, I think on Nairaland or something. I jumped people talking about graduate assistantship. I'm like,
Okay.
okay, because the way that we kind of like view the concept of scholarship, the way we see like TED Fund, like very traditional scholarship, like Mastercard Foundation, that kind of traditional scholarship. So I didn't even have the actual grasp of what it means to have a non-traditional scholarship like the graduate assistantship part. Until I learned that, I was like, okay, let me even shoot some shots to some schools. You you never know until you try.
All right.
And then I started kind of like sending emails to schools. Now the truth is that even though some schools in the United States actually accept HND, a lot of them also do not accept HND.
Okay.
So yes, so as a HND graduate, I would just say, you have to do twice the work. Basically, you have to kind of like send emails to both graduate admission committee and then the program coordinator to understand if they're going to accept the HND. But basically, the what ignited the whole passion for me to study was that I was genuinely interested in going further beyond the bachelor's degree. And then, my curiosity got the best of me, and now I'm here.
Okay, so if I get it correctly, you were exposed to all these countries, but finally you only submitted applications to the US.
Yes, US and UK.
Okay.
Yes, but the UK, yeah, I think I also submitted applications to Germany because at that point I was just so desperate to, I would say, not just the passion to kind of like go further with education. I just wanted to leave my immediate environment, if I'm going to be honest. So at some point, that actually meant that I was starting to accept the reality that I'm going to start all over, even if it means starting from a bachelor's degree. And this was like, yes, after my graduation, like in 2016, this whole thing was happening around 2018. So I already made up my mind that even if it means doing a PGD, a bachelor's degree all over, I just want to start something, And then I submitted
Outside your current environment.
yes. So I submitted applications to Germany, and for Germany, you have to most of them are in English, but for a transcript, you have to actually do a notary and then transcribe that into their own German language, and then you can submit. Then for UK, the applications that I did for UK were PGD applications. So, and none of them came with funding, and their admission decisions were really quick, like 2 weeks, 1 week, you've gotten admission, but like the funding is the cocoa, So
Right.
yeah.
Even with the admission, no money. Like, what's the point? I'm supposed to use the admission for anything. Okay, so you made applications and you started applying to the US when you heard about grad assistantships. So can you tell us some of the universities that you applied to, like universities that accept the HND degree and some others that you found out that didn't?
So I do have like an active Twitter page, even though like I slowed down since this year because I wanted to focus on myself. I really appreciate you, Nzube, because doing this is not really easy. It's so easy to get lost in the process if you're not constantly taking care of yourself. Yeah. So I do have like on my Twitter page, I usually tell people just go on my Twitter page, Google everything there, everything is there. I have like a list of schools up to like 400 to 500 schools that accept HND. Yes.
Wow.
And then another
I'll
thing
put the
is
link
that
to her Twitter page on the description of this video so that you guys can check it out.
So another thing with HND and the schools that accept it is some schools accept HND with WES evaluation. WES is World Education Service. Some do not accept it even with WES evaluation, they do not accept it. As long as it's HND, they do not. So some accept HND, no WES evaluation. Like, bro, we don't need your WES evaluation. We can do this on our own. There are some schools like that. For instance, my own school that I graduated from, Northern Illinois University, I did submitted my West evaluation because at that time, I felt like it was easy for me to use my West evaluated result to apply because right now, if I apply to a school, the logic for me was that if I apply to a school with my original transcript, like my own copy of the transcript, it means that I'm going to go through the whole administrative process of getting the original one. Yeah. And then you know how Nigerian institutions are like,
Yeah.
sometimes it's really hard. So I was like, okay, if they we accept my West evaluated transcripts, what I just need to do is to pay extra $20 and just send them the original copy from West. Boom. But my school was like, we need the original one. So my school are among those schools that they don't need a West evaluated copy as long as you have a cumulative of 8 semesters, which is like 4 years, they would accept that transcript. And then which is Northern Illinois University. That is the school that I graduated from. Bowling Green State University accepts HND, but with an evaluated result. And Florida State University accepts HND with West evaluation. American University accepts HND with West evaluation, of course. University of Alabama accepts HND too. But then schools that don't accept it, Kent, please. This is not a demarketing attempt at Kent, but like Kent really stressed me. Now, as I said earlier, before I submit this application, I would usually, because I know that I have some kind of barrier ahead of me, in that whole disparity between bachelor's degree and HND. So what I would do is, and at this, it's even crazier right now. At that point, dollar to naira was not smiling. So I needed to be sure that before I make this application fee, what I'm committing to, if they're not giving me, that is okay. But I need to know what I'm committing to before I pay that money. And then I send them an email. Hey, I do have higher national diploma. Now, another mistake that I would also say is that most of the time, because in Nigeria, when someone has a higher national diploma, we already assume from people who graduated from the Polytechnic, we already assume that before you get to a higher national diploma, you already have a national diploma. So we don't just mention the national diploma. But when you just mention the higher national diploma to these people, they are going to just copy those words, put it on the internet. And higher national diploma without a national diploma, I tell you, is not a bachelor's equivalent. That is an associate degree because it's just 2 years.
Wow.
So, with constant experience, you get to learn from your own mistake, and then improve subsequently. And then what I was doing sometimes was like I had to go extra mile to tell them, hey, I do have a higher national diploma. And that also include a national diploma, which is 2 years, a higher national diploma, which is another 2 years, and a compulsory 1 year of internship. That is the truth.
The internship component is compulsory. Like before you do the HND, you must have done the internship.
Exactly. So when I explain this to them, they'll be like, okay. And least I forget, schools like West Virginia University, they don't even need a West evaluation. They already understand the concepts of higher national diploma.
Wow.
And then Arizona State University accepts HND without a West evaluation.
Okay.
So yeah, there are a lot of schools out there, but schools like
I think you mentioned like 7 or 8 schools here now already.
So schools like Kent State, as at the time I was applying, Kent State was an R2, and then they were like, oh, they accept these. And then before the whole admission thing was over, Ken went from R2 to R1, and they were like, we can't accept you because of. I'm like, bro, I emailed you earlier, but that is okay. I also have schools like Portland State University. They do not accept HND, no matter what you talk about, no matter what you say to them. And then University of Iowa, they do not accept HND. But now I know people that I've dealt with in the past that got into Iowa State, not University of Iowa State with a HND. I know people with a HND in Georgia Southern University. I know people with HND in Georgia State University. I know people with HND in University of New Haven. I know someone with HND in I do make a list of that, but I know a couple of persons who has successfully gotten into a university with a HND, even University of Connecticut. Yeah. University of Connecticut. We do have Kemi is doing his PhD. Kemi is doing her PhD, and Kemi's own was that she didn't even do a master's. She went from HND to PhD.
Wow, nice.
Yes. So, but like it's not as easy as I'm telling it. But like, if you have genuine desire to do this, trust me, just be persistent enough, just be consistent. You would definitely get there.
Thank you. You've shared like so many schools that accept HND and the ones that don't. So if you have an HND degree and you want to apply, Amaka has come through for you. So many universities. So my question is, these schools that accept or the ones that don't accept, will you say that it's program dependent or it's university dependent? So maybe a program in this school might not accept, but another program might. What do you think?
So, yes, I do have some of that issue popping up from people, with my story. A lot of people just come to ask me questions. They'll be like, oh, you said this, and I have this experience, One school that I've seen that from is GWU. I think George Washington University. I could be wrong, but something like that. And then they would be like, oh, I know. Now I say this because I know people who have gotten into the schools personally, but another person would go and say, oh, my department didn't accept. So I come to the conclusion that sometimes it may actually vary by department. Yes. So because I know someone that is in, even University of Louisville. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it well, but like Louisville or Louisville. Yeah. So they also accept a HND. I don't know if it's with West. I didn't ask the person, but I know the person has a HND from Moshood Abiola University.
Okay.
Polytechnic, not university. Moshood Abiola Polytechnic.
Okay. I'm thinking that you might have had experience with like people from not just from Nigeria, but also maybe from Ghana. Mm-hmm. And so someone just dropped a question that, is the HND different from the diploma? Do you know?
So the HND literally is a diploma. But technically, so I say literally because it's literally a higher national diploma. But technically, when you compare it side by side with a bachelor's, you know that we are handling the same thing. And I say this thing because during my time as a master's student, I used to be involved in hiring international students, or let me say international workers. And most of these workers are also international students that will come to school looking for on-campus positions, right? Maybe due to my school's policy on evaluating results, international results, we don't really look at the title of that particular transcript. We look at cumulatively how many hours has this person done. So if, for instance, a typical bachelor's degree in the US takes 120 hours and a minimum of 8 semesters. And then we look at these transcripts and we see 140 hours, a minimum of 8 to 10 semesters. That person has actually passed that particular requirement. So we also evaluate it as a bachelor's degree.
Okay.
Now, it is very tricky a little bit because in countries like Ghana, before I didn't understand that there are kind of like little difference between Nigerian HND and Ghanaian HND. I got to even understand that sometimes Ghanaian HND takes, both the ND and HND takes, I think 3 years. Some of them I also heard from someone that is like 2 years or 1 year, I think. Now, it's not so, that is why I mentioned earlier, it's not just the title that is on the transcripts. We look at what has been done. So if you do a higher national diploma, for instance, in Ghana, and it's 4 years, it meets the requirement of maybe minimum of 120 credit hours. That will meet as a bachelor's degree. If it's less than, say, 8 semesters, or like it is less than 120 credit hours, we would not evaluate that as a bachelor's degree. right?
Okay.
So that also play a role in the way that it's even here in the United States. You will see people who go to college, they will just obtain an associate degree, which is two years, and then they will transfer into a university and complete the 2 years and then go. So when you evaluate those two transcripts from those two universities or those two institutions, you see that 2 years here equals like a 4 semester, and 2 years in the university equals a 4 semester. When those two come together, they equal 8 semesters. And then the credit also match. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think I've received a framework from you. You've given us a framework to always use to evaluate your um the weight of your transcript, no matter the
Mm-hmm.
title of the degree.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, if okay, this school requires a bachelor's degree for this master's, you can
Mm-hmm.
easily just check online how many credit has the bachelor's degree, US
Mm-hmm.
bachelor's degree, you get it. Then you evaluate your own, how many hours is your own degree combined together, and you have a framework to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you. That's really so good. Okay, so let's come back to your story and your profile as at the time you were applying. So you had the ND, you had the HND, which comes together to be equivalent to a bachelor's.
Mm-hmm.
Then you also had internship, the
Yes.
compulsory internship, which you can say is work experience.
Mm-hmm.
So what other thing did you have in your profile while applying?
So, like I said, I had like 6 years between the time that I graduated to the time that I started my master's degree. So that 6 years would equal to 6 years working experience, because I don't like to stay one place. I just like to get busy.
Nice. So throughout
So
the 6 years you were working.
yes, I was
Nice.
working even while I was in school. Like when I was actively a student, I was also working.
Nice.
But and I actually want to say this because publication has become a big thing right now in the application pool. Like, oh my God, you need to have a publication. And even though I want to say this out there, it is not to make you relax, because like it or not, the pool of application, the quality in the pool of application from the time that I applied is not what it is today. I feel like it's getting more competitive
Yeah,
than the
it is.
time that I applied. So whatever you have to do to make yourself stand out, do that. But as at the time that I applied, I did not have no publication.
Mm.
I only had my teaching experience because I was teaching for about 3 years. And then I also had like industry experience because I was working as a communication and public relations specialist for a company back in Nigeria, which was also 3 years. And then when I was doing my youth service, as you would all know, I did my youth service as a field journalist. So I was basically in the field gathering information, pushing out narrative and stories out there. And I would say that those things, not even my public relations part per se, but because I was highly involved in teaching knowledge, kind of like, it's very hard to teach things. You
Yeah.
have to
Yeah, you have to know
assimilate.
it.
Yes, you have to you have to read articles, you have to read things not for your own assimilation, but in a way that you'll be able to clearly communicate that back to people, and then they would grasp it in a very simple way.
Yeah.
And then I feel like that helped me because grad school in the US, and I usually say this, whether it is research based grad school or industrial based grad school, you have to have some level of writing expertise. So you have to know how to grasp on something from a paper or from an article that you've been recommended to your lecture, or your professor recommended to you. You have to write weekly reflections. This is not something that you do just because you finished a bachelor's degree. These are like added skills. And then the time that I also worked as a journalist, journalism is more of writing. And one thing about it was that it is time bound, that you don't even have enough time to critically analyze what you're writing, but you somehow trust your skill so much that it's going to make sense to the general public. So, and another thing is, it's not just how much skill that you have, it is also how you are able to communicate that to the admission committee in your SOP.
Nice. I really appreciate how you ended. It's not about how much skill you have, but how you're able to communicate it. Because as we're listening to your work experience, I was able to see like a thread as to how they relate to communication.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you were teaching, you were what you were doing during your NYSC. Those were
Yes.
all things, yes, that we can liken to communication.
Mm-hmm.
So the other question I have is that did you write any tests? IELTS, TOEFL, GRE?
Oh my God, yeah. I actually laughed at that question because I wrote the GRE and I failed woefully. Oh my God.
Wow.
So, because like I said, I was desperate when I was applying. And I usually say this to people. People will be like, "Oh, Amaka, please help me review this. Oh my God, what should I do?" I'm like, whatever, that is my life mantra. Whatever you need, you will definitely get it. But what really sets you apart is how bad you need it. I've not
Mm,
seen someone that is that desperately wants something and they have not
I
gotten
get
it.
it. Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
I've not seen. So it just rests on how bad you want this thing. Did you see? If you see me when I was doing my own thing, I was dreaming about writing SOPs. I was dreaming about embassy. I was dreaming about seeing myself. Like, my entire being was surrounded around this process.
Mm,
Like, and then I just told myself, because I was kind of like desperate. Oh, now see, I already tried UK, I tried Germany, I tried Canada. At this point, they all do not want HND. The only one country that accepts HND, I just have to give it my all. That was the mindset I had.
mm.
I can't do this twice. So I actually asked myself, what do they need? They said TOEFL. They said GRE. I was writing everything they told me to write. Like, I was doing
Same
everything
approach too.
because I just need to get out of this place, like I need to go get this thing. And then what happened was that because I was doing two jobs in Nigeria as at that time, I was really busy. And then, and that's why sometimes when I tell people, it just really depends how bad you want something. At this point in my life, I do not have a single day off. I work from Monday to Sunday. And I was able to, I'm not joking, I was able to squeeze out time
You don't look
studying.
forward to the weekends.
I work Monday to Sunday, every single. The only time I take time off, and please, you all should forgive me. That was the time I appreciated the Monday sit at home in the Southeast because that was the only holiday that I had.
Wow.
Yes,
Wow.
because the Monday sit at home, nowhere open. I'm like,
You can't go
damn,
anywhere now.
thank God, let me just sit down. But I was working Monday to Sunday, literally. So I had written the GRE. I felt woefully, of course, because I didn't prepare. I didn't have time to go for the whole, all these extra preparation centers. I
Mm.
didn't even have time to kind of like even study on my own because remember, I was teaching, I was
Working.
working as a public relations specialist. So I need to also show up to my work, the two jobs that I'm doing. And you cannot just explain to your manager or your supervisor, oh, I'm preparing for GRE. That's why you cannot show. No, you have to. So at that point, what I was doing was basically I'm helping myself also while helping myself to survive because I need to get paid. And then I wrote the TOEFL. The TOEFL was a little bit easy for me to pass because remember, I was already teaching English language and literature study. So
Right.
most of the things where I didn't really prepare for TOEFL, I kind of like sat down, review past materials in 2 days, and I wrote the exam, and I passed it. But the GRE, I did not pass. And let me tell you all, there is no school that I applied to that I told them that I wrote GRE. And I like to say this.
Of course, you have to show your strengths.
Exactly. I like to say this. When somebody will be like, I wrote the GRE, just please, if the school says GRE is optional, don't even bother submitting your bad results. Please, because it's going to, instead of you to show a bad result just to tick a requirement, just don't show it. Because that is not a good reflection of your academic capability.
Exactly.
And no matter how you explain it, this is what they are seeing. And there is so much context that they do not understand. What they understand is what they are seeing. So don't just even submit it. Yes.
Very good. Very good. Very good. Very, very good. You have to showcase everything that is your strong point, that is your strength in your application. Yeah, because some people also reach out to me, which is like something similar to what we just discussed. They want to do a master's in the US, which is a second master's. They did one in Nigeria or Ghana previously, and They didn't do so well in it. Okay, and they're asking, will he help their profile, their application? No. Like he's even going to normally they would have seen that okay, this person is good, we can give them a chance. But then that low result now brings it down, and they're like,
Mhm.
are you sure about them? And yeah, so it was really very brilliant that although yes, you wrote the GRE, you put in money into it, but it didn't come out well, and you made the best
Please.
with the rest. Yeah, with the other
Yeah.
application, these things that you had, so that the application can be strong. Okay, so how many? Two questions. How many universities did you apply to, and was it just 1 year that you did this application? Or is that just this 1 year you applied, you got admissions and all those things, the next year you were in US? How was it for you?
So I started this whole admission journey like while back, but United States specifically, I tried my first in 2021. And
Okay.
because I kind of like discovered that information late, I discovered the whole information in January of 2021.
Okay.
And as at that time, the whole December 15th, January 15th deadline had all gone. So I had to apply to a few schools, Eastern Illinois University, and I applied to Western Illinois University, and I also applied to um I think University of North Texas. I had
Okay.
forgotten, but like I got admission in all the three schools. But at this point I didn't have any sort of funding because it's past the priority deadline where they kind of like consider you for funding and all. So, and at that point, I just had to be honest with myself. Like, even though they were paying me a good amount of money in Nigeria, if you convert it to dollar, it's nothing.
It goes
It's
from
not.
good to bad.
Yes, it's nothing. I just had to be honest with myself, and I am not the one that wants to disturb my dad. My parents are aged, like I don't want to disturb them all with my adult problems and all of that. So I just had to like sit back. So I would say that that 1 year allowed me to master the whole process and then try back with a different strategy in 2022.
Okay. So you applied that August to December 2021 against
Yes,
starting admission.
exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I just want to emphasize some things you said so that people don't miss it before I now hear about the new strategy that you had. So those 2021 applications, how were they for you? So I remember you mentioned priority deadline. So I wanted to be sure that everybody got it because usually in the application window, for a lot of them, there is priority deadline and then there's like a general deadline. If you apply before the priority deadline, you'll be considered for scholarship in the form of grant assistantship. And a couple of the schools are like December 15th, December 31st, January 15th, and some January 31st. Yes, it all now depends on the schools, which are the dates that you mentioned. So the experience is like consistent throughout the
Mhm.
majority of the universities in the US. So at the time we are doing this recording, the time you are watching this, you see the deadline has not reached, so you can really take advantage of it and submit a strong application for yourself. All right, Amaka, thank you so much. It's been really, really insightful. So let's talk about your 2021 applications. How many universities did you apply to? Which of them admitted you, scholarship, and all that good stuff?
I would say that I applied to about 10 universities and all 10
Whoa,
admitted me.
whoa, whoa. 10.
Yes.
Like 10.
Yes, 10.
Okay, wow,
I
wow.
was I was desperate for this
You
thing.
really wanted it. All right.
Yes. I applied to and actually tell people that submit to in fact make them your minimum and
Hmm.
then kind of like do it like 3 grade A. I don't mean to use the word grade A, but like 3R1, 3R2, and three maybe up there, kind of like spread it because I see people doing R1, these R1 schools are
Just
like
all MIT, Harvard, just all they're just applying to all the.
I know they also want people from Africa, but like you have to also have a solid profile before going out for
Right.
that kind of thing. So I submitted about 10 applications and all 10 admitted me.
Nice.
And then, but the thing is that not all of them came with funding, including my school. My school didn't actually come with funding initially because I kept following them up. And then I think they actually made graduate assistantship decisions. I was not chosen. And then Illinois State gave me funding. Bowling Green State University gave me funding, half funding, like 10 hours. And then Florida State did not give me funding. American University gave me funding. Which other school? Oh, Georgia Southern didn't give me funding. I forgot. DePaul gave me partial funding, which is about 5,000. Which other schools there? I applied like 10 schools. I may not really.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. So, but among the ones that actually were my top would be like American University, Illinois State, Bowling Green State, and Northern Illinois University.
Okay.
So why I chose my school, first of all, was because of my program coordinator. And I keep saying that till tomorrow. Because I felt like even though I actually wanted to leave this country to a place where I consider a non-familiar location, I also want to somehow feel welcome, feel at home, kind of. And then that was something that I got from my communication with my program coordinator at that time. And then even though I wasn't considered for graduate assistantship, he was proactively suggesting financial assistance opportunity for me. Hey, apply here. Hey, apply here. That kind of support. Yes. So, and then when I finally, what my school gave me was a tuition waiver. They waived my tuition 100%.
Okay.
So I had to do comparison. I compared American University. American University gave me 39,500. But the deficit,
big, well, compared to the deficit, which is
exactly, the deficit was actually heavy, and not just the deficit for me, but the cost of living is also something that I factored in when making that decision, because I do not want to earn 50,000, and at the end of the day, I spend 40,000. I can't even have enough savings to kind of like keep body and soul together. And then I also compared. Basically, American University was the first to go out of that list. And then I compared BGSU. BGSU, I also took it out, not because I didn't like the school. Now, the program coordinator at BGSU was super amazing. Oh my God, Louisa Ha, she's super, super amazing. And then I took it out because it was partial GA. And then I was left with Illinois State and Northern Illinois. So Illinois State also did not make it to my list. I took it out because even though it was full tuition and a graduate assistantship, I still have like 8,000 deficits. So what that means for people that don't know is that with that kind of deficit, I cannot even work more than 20 hours as an international student. So whatever I earn as a graduate assistant, I have to keep financing that deficit from whatever I earn. So I came to Northern Illinois because with my tuition waiver, I do not have to pay a dime in tuition, and I still have my full 20 hours intact. So that means I can get a job, and I do not have that. Whatever I earn from that job, 100% come to me. I don't have to pay any tuition. So that was what informed that decision, in addition to my relationship with my program coordinator. Yeah.
That was good. One of the things I want to highlight that you said is you were communicating with the program coordinators of these universities.
All of them.
So you reached out to the 10 program coordinators. I guess there were probably even more, but you just applied at the end.
Way more. So I would say like that, I feel like that communication helped me because like, when you constantly communicate with somebody, now I did that, and I'm not encouraging anybody to do that. When you want to communicate with them, just communicate within office hours. I remember my program coordinator, when I go back to our email, I was communicating with this man on Thanksgiving on 25th December.
Wow.
1st January, like this is a holiday. He should be resting. I was communicating with him. Like from the time that I started my and at some point there were times that like my one of my recommenders didn't attach a letter to my recommendation. He had to call my attention to that. He's like, hey, Amaka, this person did not attach a letter to your recommend. You might want to draw, that kind of thing. So I had to go back to my recommender. Hey, I got this feedback from the school. You can go back and correct. Like, that kind of, I just felt like this person genuinely want me to come,
Right.
And all of that. So
helpful.
that back and forth communication, actually, I would say, kind of like made your would I say virtual presence stick to their own subconscious, that if they want to make any kind of decision, it's going to help you. It's kind of like building a relationship. Yeah.
Okay. Now talking about recommenders, how many recommenders did you use? Since you applied to a lot of schools, they apply to all 10?
Yes.
Wow.
So my school actually requires just 2 recommenders, but I contacted 4 people. Now, this is why. I contacted 4 people. Remember, it's been 6 years that I graduated. And from what all of us know with African schools, in one class, you have 200 students. Yeah. Unless you have a specific kind of relationship with a particular lecturer, they're not going to remember you in 6 years. That is true. So I just kind of like was trying, and I would say, sorry if I'm sounding religious, but like the God factor can never ever be understated in this whole journey. Because when I got into the whole, I want to apply, I went to my lecturers, first of all, my project supervisor, because I just felt like, first of all, it is not random. And second of all, I could tap from something that held us together at one point to establish a new kind of communication. I was like, hey, my name is Amaka. You supervised me in year 2000 and black. I was like, okay, let me see the project. And he saw his name. So I was like, okay, fine. And then I went to my HOD, who I consider like a good person that actually prioritized student success. And thankfully, as at the time I met him, he was the present HOD in my department.
Wow.
So he was like, I'm not sure you schooled here. Let me see your transcripts, Okay. And then I showed him my transcripts. And thankfully, I was also a good student because I left with an upper credit. He looked at my result and he was like, oh, you're even a good student. So, he was also pushed to kind of wanting to see me do well. And then I went to the 3rd person. Now, I said, in total, I used 4 people, but not all the 4 of them submitted my recommendation. One person was just in case, if someone is not catching up. I'm gonna, because I don't like to feel entitled to their time. They're just helping me. It's not something that I had to drag them or they must do. If one person is, and most of them are actually really, really busy. I will know how busy I am compared to how they are. So I was like, if one person is not like catching up or kind of like being overwhelmed by their own schedule, I can just quickly input the next person that I have on reserve. Yeah.
Okay. Did you meet all of them in person? Did you go to the school to meet them in person, or was it through email that you were communicating with them?
Yeah, I first started virtually. WhatsApp is not even email because I don't have the email. I had to use all these course reps. I had to get to them via WhatsApp, and then when things got real, I had to go in person for them to see me. Because another thing I actually did in my recommendations were like most of them didn't send their recommendation letters through institutional emails. They did it via Gmail. So one thing I did was I made sure that since they are sending it via Gmail, this admission committee, they will just, if it's not coming from an institutional email, they are going to assume that this is coming from a random person. Anybody can create an email, yeah? So what I made sure I did was that I made sure that all my recommendation letter came on a letterhead with an official stamp. Okay. So even if it's coming from a generic email, you would hardly see someone using a specific letterhead that has contact information, email address, all of that with an official stamp. So that was something I did too.
Okay. That's really good. That was really good. So before we get into your visa interview experience, I just want to recap what we've covered so far. So, someone that has a HND degree that wants to study in the US, first of all, there are schools that accept HND just as it is without need for evaluation. Like you mentioned, University of Alabama and a couple of others. There are some others that you need to evaluate your transcript using WES. So someone that you don't want to evaluate transcript, but finished with HND, means that your options are limited,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there are not so many schools that you can apply to. But if you now want to have much more options, you were able to apply to 10.
Mm-hmm.
And part of really what helps was the fact that you had already evaluated your transcripts.
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. All right, so let's now move on to your visa interview experience. So how was it? Where, first of all, which one of the consulates did you have your interview and how did it go?
So I had my interview at Abuja Consulate. But I would say that it was I don't know how to say this, but like before I actually went for that visa interview, I was a part of this group on WhatsApp, Brown to Green, and that was actually how I met Priska. Brown to Green, like yeah, all of us met through Brown to Green. And at that time, we would organize like mock visa interviews for people going. And I was among people doing mock visa interview. Listen, I do not have a first-hand experience when I was doing this. But I feel like people who brought me on board, they were like, oh, you can communicate so well. You could drill people, and it could add to my experience because, the more you constantly engage in a conversation revolving around specific issue, the more you also become grounded in that topic.
Yeah.
So I just told myself, this is something that is going to also help my experience at the embassy. So I'm saying this because if I say my own personal experience was not as nervous as I envisaged it, people might be like, oh, this, but I just want to give that background that yes, so that I was kind of like interviewing people, hearing different stories. Oh my God, the bowed man. In fact, in my head, I had like pictured all the VOs, like, oh my God, I'm gonna go here. This is where the success story is coming from, So
wow. So
then,
you were preparing people for visa interview that you had never gone for.
yes.
The magic of communication. All right, nice.
Yeah, so and then when I
Go
actually gave my own testimony, oh my God, visa, people were surprised. They were thinking I was already in the US.
Wow.
Yes, and also another thing I would say, I would not remove the God factor because even Bible says, I'm sorry, whatever religion you are, but my own Bible says,
Yeah, go ahead.
faith without work is dead. I say this because even though I made sure that, from the get-go, I was emailing schools, writing GRE, even though I failed that one, write TOEFL, doing all of those extra layer of effort, I was also praying. Like before my interview, I did 1 week fasting. Like me, that I love food. Jesus, I love food. I'm not even joking. I love
Big
food.
fast. Wow.
So I did 1 week fasting.
Wow.
So the 1 week fast, I would join like NSPPD.
NPPD.
Oh my God. In the morning, if I'm going to work, I'll put it on last speaker. I will be reciting. I don't even care.
You're referring.
So, and I would kind of like pray even for Johnny Mercies, for smooth stuff and all of that. So when I got to the embassy, and then, oh my God, it's a different experience at the embassy. People, all these ITK people, they will be telling you did photocopy this one. Oh my God, you have full funding. They will mess up with your confidence. Jesus.
Okay, let's explain what ITK means because it's not everybody that understands what ITK
I
means.
too know. These people, you would think that maybe the VO they sleep together with the VO, like they woke up together with the VO the previous night. They'll be telling you, you didn't have full funding today, with all confidence. They will tell you today they're not approving people with partial funding. That kind of thing.
Discouragement is that
It will mess up with your confidence. That is why whenever I talk to people going for their interview, if I see that they don't have full funding, I just tell them, please avoid naysayers because that can mess up with your confidence. And I also think at that embassy, those VOs, I could be wrong because first of all, I'm not a real VO. And second of all, I don't know these people personally. But if I am talking to somebody and you tell me that you're a doctor and you can confidently tell me what you're doing, I will establish a ground to doubt what you're saying to me. So if your confidence is not 100 or even at least 90, I would want to now remember that these VOs, their duty is to deny you. First of all, your own duty is to convince them otherwise. Don't deny me. So if somebody that already has that premise to deny you and you come before them and you are fidgeting, hello, they're gonna be like this person. Yeah, you're giving them grounds to actually do that. Right. I've seen people who I know someone in Georgia Southern. He has a HND. So his first interview, he was denied. And what people do is in their denial, they wouldn't really tell you what they did. They might tell you, oh, they would try to rubbish the VO and not take corrections or reflect upon their own performance and find ways to improve. Then this person was actually very honest. He was like, peace, that's, I was scared. Trust me, that whole environment, like I said, I've been doing this practice for people. But that day I was like, wow, oh my God. Like, I think what really boosted my confidence was like in the line, I saw one girl, she's from Unizik. I don't even know her, but like that was what stuck in my mind. The way she was blasting her own answers. Oh my God, I'm currently graduate assistant in the University of Nadazukiwe. I'm like, oh, like the whole shame of people hearing my own responses disappeared. And I kept just praying. I said, God, I'm not going to return here I'm not going to go home today with my passports. Like I just kept praying, I kept declaring the stuff. Like I'm not leaving this particular premises with my passport. Trust me. So, I would say confidence play a lot of role, and then pray. No matter the God that you believe in, just pray. Like pray fervently that things align so well in your favor. Because I also know when I went, the person I had in mind from my interactions with people that have gone to that embassy was one white woman. They said, oh, she was soft. And then the bald man is automatic denial. Oh my God, if you don't have a travel history, the bald man is going to deny you. So in my head, I was like, I'm going to go to the white woman. And then at some point, I was praying that, oh my God, just lead me to the white woman. At some point, my prayer points changed. My prayer point changed from going to the white woman to saying, God, whoever I'm going to meet is going to obey your command today. Right. That was it. So, and then, ironically, the person behind me that went to the white woman was denied.
Wow.
And I went to the bald man that I didn't want to go to, and I was approved. Like I was just super confident. I was just looking at him eyeball to eyeball, that no matter your preparations, that whole environment is so tense that it's going to shake you a little. But if you're confident enough, I believe that everything should be okay.
It's interesting that I also had my interview in Abuja, but it was in 2021. Oh. And I was interviewed by the bald man. And wow. It's really interesting because I've also heard this thing too, that a lot of people say that he denies a lot. Does a lot and all of that. Okay. So like the interview itself, do you remember some of the questions you were asked?
Yeah, vividly. So in my own interview, because I had before I went, I had kind of created, I think a 50 section of it. You don't understand how desperately I needed to be
you really wanted it. Please, I hope as we are watching this, we are catching the fire from Amaka.
People don't understand. Please, if you have anything, just really fold your sleeves unless you don't want it. And I tell people it depends on how badly you want this thing. I created a 50-page, not 50-page, 50 questions. Yeah. It spread up to 8 pages. But and now due to the questions I usually ask people and their own responses from the experiences that they have, real experiences, I was kind of jotting down repetitive questions that would come, I was jotting them down. That was why I was able to create those questions. Then I created that question. I think I shared it online. I think on my LinkedIn, it's on my LinkedIn.
Okay.
And then
below.
Yeah. And then the question that I was finally asked, I think it was about 3 to 4 questions. He was like, so why are you going to Northern Illinois University? And then I answered, I'm going there for my master's in communication, blah, 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 blah. And then he asked me, so why this school? Why not other schools? So I kind of told him like exactly what I explained earlier. I was like, I do have admission from other schools, but what set this one apart for me is that my tuition is already waived 100%, and the cost of living was really lower than national average, which is true. So for me, I just feel like I'm going to be taking more for less. If I'm going to be getting master's degree, I'm paying less for it. That is a huge plus for me. I also referenced my relationship. Yeah. So I also referenced my relationship with my advisor, my program coordinator. I was like, these are, so I think, no, one big answer that I gave, that was when he started nodding, was like, I talked to him about like how communication, which is true. As at that time, before artificial intelligence, my school, my advisor who supervised my thesis was actually one of the few professors in the United States who were doing like AI in communication before the whole chat GPT thing blew up. So I was like, the way that a lot of schools treat communication, even in Nigeria and outside of Nigeria, were basically from the traditional perspective of communication, which is human to human interaction. But my own interest in communication is in human technology. We call it human machine communication. Basically, how people communicate through technology and with technology, the way that we are communicating right now. So, and it's very few schools that do that in the United States. Even almighty Harvard don't have that, So I didn't say that, but like I kind of like communicated that to him. He was like, oh, really? And then I also used, because he was typing, I was like, the way you're typing on your laptop, that is a form of communication, because you're sending a message to your laptop and it's bringing out a prompt to you. We don't really study that type of communication because, he was like, wow. Like he was really interested.
That's so good.
Yeah, he was really interested.
Wow.
And then he was like, so what do you currently do? I was like, oh, I serve as a teacher and I teach English language. That upon my return, I am looking forward to taking up a role in my alma mater, because I used to work in my school as an admin assistant. Yeah. So I said that I have had previous employment there, that I also want to go there at least to improve the curriculum. Because now, listen, we are doing communication from the traditional perspective. So if I learn this thing, it's going to help me improve our curriculum so that we can be at par with the rest of the world. So he was really impressed. And then the next question he asked was like, how am I going to pay off my deficit? Because remember, I do have deficits. The only thing away from me was tuition. And then I had like, my tuition was about 13,000. My whole cost of attendance was about 30,000. So I do have personal funds of $10,000 as at that time. So, and then my family funds was like around 7,000.
Okay, to make up the 17.
Yes. So I told him like, within the past 6 years of being out of school, I've been saving towards this. That was why I'm able to kind of like save up $10,000, and the remaining 7,000 will be coming from my dad. And then I told him what my dad does, his investments. That also kind of like shows home tie.
Yes.
So during that whole interview process, I feel like I kind of like came up with TIF. So, or let me say ITF. So that ITF acronym, I used to say the I stands for intent. So this is what you want to demonstrate at the embassy. I is for intent. So you have to show them that you have genuine intention of coming to that particular embassy or going to the United States. And that is where they're going to ask you about your school or everything. Then the T is for home ties. Do you want to come back home? Or after this, do they want to know that you are going to come back home? That is why sometimes they will ask people, how many families do you have? Do you understand? That is somehow showing that you are doing home ties. There's some kind of home ties somewhere that you want to demonstrate. Then the F for me is finance. How are you going to finance your education? Do you understand? So that is the three acronyms I usually tell people. If you can find a way to furnish those questions to demonstrate ITF, or let me say FIT, FIT.
Right. Right. To
Yeah,
show you're a
so
good fit for the visa.
yes, make sure you're a good fit. But that fit, finance, intent, and home ties.
Nice.
Yes, you should be good to go.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's really, yeah, we say it in different ways, but really it's this fit thing. You need to be able to show you're doing a financial burden, you have something that will bring you back, and you're actually a student. So you
Mhm.
have good intentions, the right intentions of going to the US. It's been a very insightful and wonderful session. Based on your experiences so far, will you recommend anyone watching us now? Some of them, some people might have HND, some might still be in the process, or people that even have bachelors are watching us. Will you recommend anyone watching us now to consider studying in the US?
I would say 100%. So, apart from the US being the only country for now that I know that would really accept your HND for a master's or even direct PhD, I know a lot of us who have HND that didn't do their master's, they went straight to PhD, you know? So, US is one country that I know that allows that. But also, I feel like my experience in the US has really been good compared to my friends who are in other countries, um, you get to actually do so much with your time here. US has a lot of people from different country, and by people I mean they kind of like filter in a lot of brains that if you are genuinely interested in maybe communication like me, engineering, you would actually see people that you can collaborate with from across the world and do so much with what you want to do. And then like the climate here is friendly. I would say I've not been to so much country, but I feel like people here, well, especially in the Midwest, I usually hear that the Midwest people are generally nicer in the Midwest.
True.
People are like they are so welcoming. I can't even emphasize on that enough. When I came into this country, I lost my two bags at the airport. So
Um,
people literally crowdfunded for me, like they were donating stuff to me, making sure that I am okay. It didn't feel like I was stranded somehow, until after my first month, I started receiving stipend, started to get my food again. You don't honestly see that in a lot of places. Even as a student, you have pantries here,
yeah.
food pantries, clothes pantries, and these pantries are for free. You go pick food, you go pick clothes for the winter, you go pick shoes. There are so many perks that you get here as an international student, and that it just easy for you to stand on your feet and then also give back to the community that has set you up. Yeah.
I completely agree. It didn't really dawn on me until you said it now. But yeah, the Midwest, they are really nice. Yeah, I when I came to the US, it was in Ohio, and Ohio is also in the Midwest.
Mhm.
And it was very, very, very welcoming. We had all these food pantries, my bed. In short, my whole house was furnished with free
With
things.
donation, yeah.
Right, like microwave, everything. Like it was wow, it was really nice because now I'm in the south. I'm in Georgia, and it's a different experience here.
Really? Oh my
Yes,
God.
it's a completely different experience here. So wow, you said you lost your two bags. Did you finally recover them?
Yes, I did. I did recover them because I feel like maybe that would be an extra tip for people traveling. Please, your most important document, just put it in your hand luggage or your backpack,
Okay, yeah.
because during the time that you're arriving in the United States, those are considered peak travel times and anything could happen. These are the most busiest time for most airport staff. If you lose your bag, because at the time I got my bag was towards December, like November, December. This was, I feel like,
Wow.
when they were able to settle down to get into the whole thing. Because
Wow.
people, the
Like four,
sheer
five
number of
months.
people traveling, yeah, the sheer number of people traveling in the summer was so big that I think it's always big that they cannot just go into their um lost baggage room, because I know they do have rooms, and start sorting things in that period. So, but I do have my transcript and every other document in my backpack, so it didn't really affect me so
Your
much.
I-20, most important.
Yes,
Your
exactly.
backpack. Nice. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. There are a couple of questions in the chat, and we just want us to go through them together. Okay, Veronica is saying, Amaka, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
Ancient one is saying, as a BSc student, can I land the scholarship with 5 credits? I don't really understand what 5 credits means. So because I don't really understand that, we can't really answer this question. Or do you understand what's
I do not.
okay? Okay, Veronica says she's watching from Ghana. Um, and then Andrew is saying, God bless you. Uh, amen. God bless you too. Okay, Dada is saying, I have a bachelor's of tech in biochemistry. I want to go for PhD in either nutritional immunology. Which schools do you recommend for me? Um, Personally, I don't have school recommendations specifically for biochemistry, but Amaka generously mentioned several universities today. Yes, and those are all universities to start from. So you can check them all out: University of Alabama, um, Northern Illinois University. You can even check out where I am, Kennesaw State University, and see if they have PhD in biochemistry, which they most likely should. Biochemistry is really a popular degree. Yes. Okay. Tolu is saying Bachelor's of Engineering in Electrical and Electronics Engineering. Bachelor's, yeah, and also 3 years of experience as a software developer. Chances of getting a direct PhD in computer science in the US. I want you to take a go at this using the communications perspective.
So I believe that I've seen a lot of people who go from bachelor's to PhD. Like lots of my friends, I can't even mention. There is Ugochukwu. Ugochukwu did bachelor's in communication, and he's currently doing his in his third year of PhD in communication, University of Iowa. There is SN. Like SN was one of my mentees at that point, where he went from his BSc communication also to PhD. And then there is Kemi that I mentioned. Kemi is doing he's doing her PhD in information technology. She has a bachelor's degree, not bachelor's, HND, in computer science, I think. So
Okay.
it's definitely possible. Now, for most of you asking for schools recommendation, like Nzube had mentioned earlier, I do not have specific recommendation for school, but I do have something that you can use to look for schools. Now there are like 3 apps that I usually tell people to use. First of all, the number one is Niche, NICHE. It's an application that you can use, filter the schools that you want by state. The United States has 50 states. So you could literally filter schools. Each state has a school, has like University of Ohio, University of Illinois, University of Nebraska, University of Idaho. There are so many of them. That is niche. So you could filter by your discipline, which states do I want to go? Which course do I want to go to? Do I want to study? You could filter it. You could also filter by acceptance rates. You could filter by so many things, by application fee waiver. There are so many things you can filter. That was the best one that I used when I was looking for mine. Another app that I have in mind is usnews.com. That app is goated. So usnews.com, you look at schools that do, it's also like niche. You can filter by disciplines, by state. You can compare schools to school. If I have, say, for instance, MIT and Stanford, which one actually handles my sub-discipline? Someone said they want to do biochemistry with a sub-discipline in immunology. So which of these school actually handles this better? So you could do that kind of comparison to have a better understanding of where you want to put in your applications to. And then the third one that I have is what's this application? I've forgotten. Let me let me let me just give me a moment. Let me get it. So
Okay.
it's like a website too, where you can, let me see, kind of like put it out before.
I've never
Where
heard of the niche
US
before. That's really, really nice.
have for ICU, the number 4,
Okay.
ICU.org. So you can use these 3 platforms. This one, so you can use it to search for schools. For ICU is much more of a global um, platform. You can search by country, by North America. So if you look at North America, you could search for schools, and then when you see the schools, you can then copy the name. You can actually go to the school's website from here. Then you can copy the name, go online, go to academics, department, college, look for the department that you want. Yes.
Nice. Nice. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. You just been delivering value since we started the show. So really, really nice. Thank you. So that's niche, niche.com, then usnews.com, and then 4icu.org. All right. So here's another question. Now, sent an inquiry mail to an evaluation company about their process, including cost. However, for a week now, they haven't responded. Any advice on how I should go about it? I have 3 years of HND.
So if the one I used was WEX, and I also hear is it Spectrum or some other evaluation company, but
Quantran.
all of them under NACIS have different processes. And I would say the easiest way to get most of these people is to actually call them. But if not, you can go ahead and start the whole evaluation process, because it doesn't really do you no bad. But now that you mentioned this, you can try West Virginia University. They accept HND, 3 years of HND from Ghana. I don't know so much about my school, but you can also email the department that you're trying to apply in that school and let them know that this is what you have. But now, because you have 3 years, don't phrase it like that. You're going to phrase it by credit hours, because 3 years could mean that you did 3 sections in 1 year. It could mean that you did the credit hours you have actually meets the criteria for bachelor's.
Okay.
Do you understand? So you have to phrase it in a way that it's understandable that what you have actually meets the requirements for a particular program.
Thank you. Solo focus and the way communication students articulate their words is blowing. I'm a Cameroonian with a bachelor's degree in journalism and mass communication, and I'm in the process of applying for my master's. So I hope you learned a lot, Solo, from Amaka today on schools that would help you push your dream of communication. Veronica is in 10 schools. Did you plan to offer the same program in all these universities? Did you apply to the same program?
Yes, but I don't know how to say this, because people just assume that communication, like, I don't know how do I say it so it makes sense. You understand what I'm trying to say, Nzube, but I'm trying to make it make sense to people watching. Like communication, like the person said, journalism or mass communication, especially mass communication. There is so much inside of mass communication. There is marketing, there is public relations, there is rhetoric and public speaking, there is corporate communication side of things, there is research communication, there is political communication, there is environmental communication, there is health communication. All of these are all under communication. So did I send an application, grad school application to those schools looking for one specific part of communication? No. But did I apply to communication? Yes. So as much as I do have interest in communication technology, I also have interest in political communication. My interest in political communication, I had a research interest in women participation in politics. because I was of the opinion that in my country, Nigeria, and pretty much rest of Africa, there is a very low participation of women in politics. So in my SOP, I kind of like gave examples of how we had affirmative actions of 35% for over 20 years, but we have not even gone up to 15%. In fact, effort to address that gap has constantly failed because a male-dominated House of Assembly has put an end to that kind of bill. So, I was also interested in rhetoric. Like rhetoric basically is a way of, in its real sense, is persuasion. But the kind of rhetoric that I was interested in was more of digital rhetoric, digital
Okay.
culture, the way people kind of like phrase information online. So, and all of this, I did not use one SOP. You have to make that research on your own. Go to a particular program's website, look at the faculty member, understand the research they are doing. I do put out a tweet on how to actually understand what a particular professor is doing at any particular point in time. Because I got to understand that sometimes a professor might say they are doing immunology. And over time, that particular update was updated 5 years. Over time, their current research has evolved into something else. So I would advise that if you go to a program's website to look for what they are doing, just basically don't believe everything you see on the website. Take their name, add Google Scholar to it, search their name online, go to their Google Scholar page, look at their most recent publications, and see how, if they are still on the same research pedestal or their research interest has shifted.
Shifted.
That way, that way you can know how to frame or phrase your statement of purpose so that it aligns very well with their research interests. Because another thing is that why we all want to apply to a school, even this immunology that someone mentioned earlier, yeah, there are so many, like there are different parts of it too. If a school does not have your research interests, if my school doesn't have sports journalism, for instance, or health communication, they are not going to admit you. That is the simple fact. So you have to make this kind of research yourself. Make sure that the school that you are going to actually has what you want to study. And sometimes I did this mistake myself. Don't restrict yourself to one. Be open to, if this doesn't come, I can also do this for a very long time. Sometimes I've seen people who I don't really recommend this, but it's out there. People who be like, oh, I can't do rhetoric. I want to go in with organizational communication. When I get there, I do what I really want. So it really depends how you want to phrase this yourself. But at the end of the day, remember that you're going to do a thesis, and people are going to cheer your thesis. And people who are going to cheer your thesis are people who have a proper understanding of what you want to do. So bear that in mind.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So, Linda, insightful. Congratulations, watching from Mozambique. Thank you for joining in. Priska said, "Yeah, Amaka was so active. Yes, in preparing people for the visa interview without even experiencing one yourself. That was so good. Amaka, I really admire your communication skills.
Thank you.
Wonderful. All right. So here's a question from Franklin Joy, and it's for you. I have only 5.5 CGPA, but we don't know what is over. It's over 7.0. I don't know. And my IELTS score is 5.5. Is that okay? Or for this score, there's any chance of rejection? Personally, I don't know what the total CGPA is over, so we can't really, except you have something to say.
Yeah, so some schools, no matter your CGPA, if it's over 5, over 6, over 7, some school would just consider you for general admission if you get up to 75%, 75 percentile. And then I particularly do not like your phrasing of, is there any chance for rejection? I did 10 over 10. It doesn't mean everybody has to. Even in my own, now that I've actually gotten a better understanding of what is happening, I applied for PhD program last year and I got almost all rejections with a stellar profile. I tell you, I had a perfect CGPA. I had 3 conference presentations, lot of travel grants, first authored papers. I won top paper award and I still got those rejections. So it doesn't mean just in this field, just be prone to rejections. Yeah. And then it doesn't mean when you have a good profile, you are not going to get rejected. You might get rejected, but sometimes it's not about you, it's about them. It's about the fact that they don't have money to finance your education. So boom. It might be that you were on wait list, someone didn't drop the offer, but it could be anything. Just be open to rejection, even with a stellar profile.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We have to just keep applying. And yeah, just have to keep applying. It might take a while. But as far as you really want it, you'll get it. Yes. Okay. Fotizo is saying it's an MSc with 3.81, a good result. Would want to apply for another master's. It's still the same thing here. Is this 3.81 over 4.0 or is it over 5.0? And we can work with the framework that Amaka provided, which is like 75 percentile of 75 percentile of whatever is over. So you can do that calculation for yourself and see if you meet that threshold. If you do, you can call it a good result. But if not, then probably you just apply with your bachelor's alone since you want to apply for another master's. Okay. Moninda saying I got part-out scholarship at Northeastern University. I tried to reach some professors, even the coordinator of my program. And I didn't have success with funding. Any recommendation?
So I would say that the funding at the department is so limited. So limited, it cannot fund everybody. For one, like as I said, I did get tuition waiver when I was coming, but at the end of the day, I actually did not end up doing my graduate assistantship in my department, even though they offered me at some point. So because I came to realize that where I was working, it gave me the leeway and the time that I needed as a grad student to work on other, like I mentioned to you, Nzube, I was able to work on publications, beef up my profile the way I needed it. So I had to maintain that position. What I'm trying to say in essence is look beyond the department. Every single department in the school, administrative department, almost all of them would need a graduate assistant. That is an administrative assistantship that offered the same benefits as a teaching assistant or research assistant, at least in my school. As long as your position has an assistantship to it, it comes with automatic full tuition. Even if it's 10 hours, 5 hours, you get it full tuition. So whether you're doing it in an office, you're teaching, you're doing research, look outside the department because the ones at the department usually is very limited. And also
Thank you.
look at other schools.
Right. I was going to say that. Like, yes, you've tried with this one school, but increase your options. There's a big ocean.
Mhm.
Increase your options. You apply to 10 universities. Increase your options. Okay, thank you. Roslyn is saying I have a BSc food science. I want to pursue a PhD in nutrition. Do I have to email the program directors before applying? I would say no, you don't have to, but please do. Yeah, it's not like you cannot get admitted without reaching out to them. You can. But if you do and you're able to build a relationship, it helps a lot. Like it helps a whole lot. Even I didn't know Amaka even before coming to the US, but I had immersed myself in this education of how to get admissions and everything. And I reached out to the program coordinators myself. Yeah, I reached out to the program coordinators myself. So it's something that is highly recommended and advised. You might be shy. It's not a physical, you don't have to present yourself to them, just send an email. Yeah, so just compose the email, read through it, proofread it, let it sound good, and then hit send. Yeah, you might be shy, but it's still something that's very good to do. So because of time, I think this is the last question we'll take. He said I got admitted into BGSU, but the program coordinator never answers requests for funding emails. I feel unwelcome by the department. I guess this is because he said you felt welcome. So, do you think I should ignore the admission and move on?
So I don't know. This is very dicey. I say dicey because the program coordinator, remember the program coordinator that I had during my time, he actually got another job in a different school. So he's no longer in my school. Now we also have another program coordinator now, who in my opinion is so busy. Like this woman is so busy. I am going to imagine that, I'm not saying it's a fact. I'm going to imagine that she might not be as responsive as my previous program coordinator.
Hmm.
And I also say this because she is a heavy researcher. Like, oh my God, this woman is all over the place. All the conferences you can imagine, she's always publishing, that kind of thing. This kind of people, even though they are working in an admin role, might not really have the time that my other program coordinator, who is mostly admin, have. But now I've met this person in person. I've met her in person, and she's awesome. So what I'm trying to say is that the lack of communication thereof in that email thread might not really determine if a department welcomes you or not. If they do not welcome you, they will not admit you.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. So apply to other schools. Let me just try to summarize. Apply to other schools as well, but you can also still try to send some follow up to this program coordinator, but still look at other schools. Yes, and hopefully you might get a response. They could be busy, as she has explained, and which is the experience that I've had so as well. Some of them are heavy on their research and other duties that they are not able to have this communication with new students very well. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Amaka. It's been a very insightful session. Finally, any final advice you have to anyone who wants to study in the US on a scholarship like you? I want you to speak to that person.
So what I'm going to say is, first of all, US is that country it thinks it is. Forget the whole PR. I'm going to say, because I also have people from different countries. Everybody wants to come to the US, and it's for several reasons. But US is that country that you want to come to. And then if you have a HND, it is not going to be the same path as your friend who has a BSc. You have to do twice the work. You have to, if you're an introvert, you have to communicate. You have to send that email. No matter how many no's you get, you only need one yes. And trust me, when you get that one yes, the no's won't matter.
Right.
So it's a number game. Keep
Right.
putting in those applications till you get one yes that you deserve.
Thank you, thank you so much. When you get the yes, the no's will matter. Yeah, it's a whole new world. Once that yes comes, you forget about all the grind, all the rejections, all the thank you for applying, but unfortunately, all those emails that you've been receiving. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Amaka, for a wonderful session today. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today on the USA Playbook Podcast. Till we come your way again, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below and keep pursuing your dreams. It's possible. It's possible. It's possible. I'll see you again next week. Bye.